After a day like yesterday where I pulled a deadlift PR, 255, I'm always expecting a bit of a dip in performance. I'm always expecting a bit of a lull in how I feel and whatnot. This morning I woke up and I felt pretty good. Previously when I kind of did PRs, the following day would be much worse. But I think this high frequency deadlifting is doing something. And part of the motivation about doing this deadlifting every single day to some sort of heavy, number is to kind of build that resilience through the posterior chain. I've spoken at length about this. My susceptibility, I guess, to fatigue when it comes to pulling, and my resilience when it comes to squatting. We've spoken about this many times in the comments, and I've made videos about this in the past, how I seem to be just way more resilient in squatting. And so, we got into discussions about whether this is just a genetic thing, I'm just kind of wired this way. And the other argument to this is whether I've just done a lot more squatting than I've done deadlifting, and so it would make sense that I'm more resilient in a skill that I'm kind of more experienced in. I've just done a lot more squatting than deadlifting in my life. It's just obvious. And so that's kind of the thinking that led me to think about deadlifting every day. And the stories about Bob Peoples and how he pulled 700 or something pounds at 60, 70 kilo body weight, or whatever he was, 80 kilos body weight. And he deadlifted every day. And so I think there is something to be said about practicing a movement, with really low volume and super high frequency. There's something about that. It's kind of like that farmer strength that we always talk about. Farmers and manual laborers, they don't, do AMRAP sets when they're working. It's never a situation where, they're wheelbarrowing until they can't wheelbarrow anymore, they fail. It's not like that. They wheelbarrow to a point, and when they get tired, or when they approach to get tired, they stop. They don't go to failure. And so you do that every single day, and you kind of develop this reservoir, this capacity for work. This is kind of the basis of what greasing the groove is built upon. And I've done my fair share of greasing the groove in the past with push-ups. I did that, and that was a really exciting thing. I did it with pull-ups, I did it with squatting, and I did it with deadlifting in the past for like a week period. So there's definitely value in doing this sort of stuff. But the trick is to make sure that you don't absolutely get spent, especially in the first few weeks when you're kind of getting acclimatized to this new kind of workload. And so, yesterday I did the 255, and this morning I feel not too bad. And so I've come in today again, and I've deadlifted again. I went up to 220 today. Plenty more in the reservoir. Again, I could have pushed a bit more, but I'm kind of mindful of easing into this sort of stuff. In the back of my mind, I keep kind of thinking about everything that everyone's ever said. Be very, very careful about deadlifting. It will snap you. It will zap your central nervous system. It's very high risk of injury, all this sort of stuff. And so in the back of my mind, I'm still kind of trying to shake away those thoughts, because that's what I've been told. And sometimes it's really hard to shake away where you've kind of been filled, mentally, and kind of break away from that, thought, and, accept new rules and regulations and ideas. So I think, this is my kind of hypothesis right now. I think I can become as resilient, in the deadlift as I am with the squat. And that's purely the assumption there is that I need to do a lot more deadlifting. High frequency, low volume, do it every single day. You don't have to max out every single day. So today I did 220, which is a fair bit away from the 255, which is my new max. But every single day, come in, do something. You can deadlift 60 kilos, right? If your max is 250, you can do 60 kilos every day. You can do 100 kilos every day. You could probably do 140 or maybe even 180 every single day. The question is how do you ease into this type of workload? How do you kind of, warm your body up, not to get shocked and zapped and worn out from the shock? So you don't go from like bed rest for 9 months, to bang, squat every day. You kind of ease into things. You start squatting once a week, then twice a week, then 3 times a week. And, over time, you kind of build that capacity, build that resilience. And I guess the goal there is to never have DOMS, to never have shock where you wake up the following day and you kind of zapped. Now, I say this, but I've done DOMS chasing in the past. I've said in the past that I like to overwork a particular muscle group, especially when I introduce a new movement. So say I start doing a completely different movement. Let's just keep it simple. I'm doing bicep curls. What I like about zapping or going crazy day one with an exercise is because the next day or the following day, you're going to feel exactly which muscles or which kind of heads of muscles are going to be sore. And then from then on, you kind of know exactly what this exercise is hitting. And so that feedback of DOMS or pain is kind of like, oh, okay, so when I do this exercise, this is what I'm doing. And so obviously overworking a muscle is not the best idea, but there's a benefit. And the benefit is just purely intellectual. Okay, so this is where this particular kind of angle or exercise is doing for me. And so I've kind of done that in the past. But the idea there is like long term, you don't want to have workouts like that every single time. And that's kind of what attracted me to high frequency training, is that the absence of that feeling. You know, I'm not walking around like somebody shot me in the leg after a leg day. You know, I'm functional. You know what I mean? I don't struggle to sit on the toilet. That's what training is supposed to be. It's not this idea that you need to be absolutely worn out. That's a successful training session. That is a fallacy. That is not what you need to do. Especially if you're in the strength game. You know, Pavel Tsatsouline, you know, when I read Power to the People, man, that guy spoke about greasing the groove. You know, a method where you are literally avoiding a pump. So, you know, for me at that time, I was like, what do you mean? So are we training or wasting our time? He proved, and I tested this out for myself, he proved that training with high frequency, low volume is very, very efficient, especially for the central nervous system. You become a better mover, more efficient. You become a skilled lifter. So I've got a whole lot of respect for, you know, greasing the groove. And that's kind of the mentality that I have when it comes to this deadlifting business. Yesterday I did 255. Today I did 220. I could have done more, but I just want to, you know, I'm mindful of what's happening, and I want to feel that movement every single day. Feeling good. And so I'm hoping as time progresses that my resilience for deadlifting is as good as it is for the squat. And then all of a sudden I'm a beast. You know what I mean? Like I'm resilient to both of these big top, you know, body movements. And so I think when you reach that capacity, then you're resembling some sort of a balanced athlete. But when you're just resilient to one and not the other, then you could argue that there is an imbalance, you know, in the body. So you saw me there. I hit 200 kilos for one. Yesterday I did 190. And yesterday I did my back off sets with 150. Today I did with 160. 160 felt heavy, man. Felt heavy, felt a lot more different than 150. Obviously, it's 10 more kilos. But doing them for 5, I worked hard today. So I spoke about this yesterday. This deadlifting, you know, increasing strength is purely from the squats, man. And so the focus in all of my freaking training is always how much volume can I take on with squatting. I mentioned in yesterday's video, the only thing that prevented me from doing stupid volume is this hip pain. Hip pain is not an issue every day. Like I woke up today feeling mint, and I really wanted to squat again. And so today I did 200, 160 back off sets for 3 sets of 5. 1 or 5 sets of 5. Well, I spoke about this yesterday as well. I want to get to 100 reps, quality reps in the 80% range per week. That's what I'm aiming for. And let's see where it takes me. Right now, my legs are feeling pumped. They're feeling strong. My back is feeling good. I'm just feeling really, really good. And the fact that I'm on annual leave right now is also part of my psyche as well. You know, I remember what I did last time I was on annual leave for 2 weeks. I had a crazy, crazy training period. The ability to sleep well, to eat well, you know, all of that stuff goes a long, long way. So what I'm going to do for this training session, I'm not going to go exactly for like a 200 kilo for one kind of run. I'm going to try and attack volume. I'm going to try and take some real volume right now with the squatting and see where it can take me. Still, you know, mess around with the, you know, top singles for the squat. But I really want to start pushing these 5s because I think, especially after this deload, I think it's my body's ready for it. And the deadlifting also kind of fits into that. What I didn't show again in this video, I showed it yesterday. Today, I'm doing hamstring curls every single day. Every single day. I want to bring up my hamstrings. Hamstring work before squats feels unbelievable, feels really, really good, especially for somebody that has anterior pelvic tilt. This is kind of like, that's exactly what my body needs. Squatting a whole bunch works out your quads, if you have really overworked quads, you can pull down on that pelvis and have your pelvis resting in that anterior kind of pelvic tilt. I've always had an anterior pelvic kind of bias of my pelvis. So doing hamstrings every single day is kind of basically reversing that bias, kind of going backwards a little bit. When you squat every single day, that's a whole lot of quad involvement. Deadlifting is an absolutely amazing, hamstring exercise, of course. But because I'm doing it with such a little volume, you would argue that it's not enough to combat what I'm doing with the squats. And so I'm doing a whole bunch of volume with the squats. In the back of my mind, I would love to do a whole lot of volume with the deadlifting, but that is going to be a super, super difficult thing to recover from, especially the fact that I'm not quite there with the deadlift resilience. So I'm kind of supplementing with the deadlifting with this hamstring curl business, just to make sure that there's some sort of restoration of forces when it comes to that pelvis. I've been down the track of squatting a whole bunch without addressing the hamstrings, without addressing the anterior pelvic tilt, and I think that's what that kind of path, that kind of decision leads me down the path of hip pain, because ultimately I think the hip pain is as a result of a hip musculature imbalance, which causes the ITB to flare up and pull on the TFL, and voila, I have my pain. All right, guys, another session of me talking to you guys. Hopefully all that makes sense. My brain's kind of thinking about exactly what I'm going to do in the next few weeks, how I'm going to attack it. Whenever I have a bunch of time like this free, man, my eyes light up. I just want to attack it. I want to make use of this free time. Not free time, I'm still doing stuff, but there's no night shifts, there's no shift work. It's unbelievable. I've got structure. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.